Good morning everyone and welcome to today's yoga class. This morning's class is going to be a lot slower than what we have done in some of our previous classes, and we're going to be focusing much more on our longer holds and those yin type poses. So today you will need a couple of props or blocks or pieces of wood or old books, and also a strap of some kind. So maybe 2 blocks if you've got them. Where you don't have 2 blocks, feel free to use cushions or rolled up blankets as well. A strap. Now I have finally gone up into my roof space and got my blocks and straps, which is why I have these here at the moment. But in the past I have used a dressing gown cord. You could also use a really long belt if you have one as well. Even a towel works the same way as a strap does, a long towel. What I have also fished out of my garage is a rolled up sleeping bag. So my rolled up sleeping bag today is going to be my bolster. Now the bolster is completely optional. It is just there for use for another lot of cushioning when we come to do some of our longer holds like our half pigeon. Feel free to also use cushions that you have in your house as well. So this morning we're going to start in Shavasana. So we're actually going to start down on the floor on our backs. So turn yourselves to lengthways on your mat and come to lying all the way down. And just relax the arms alongside the body, palms facing up. The feet can fall to wherever they would like to fall. And we're just going to give the shoulders a nice wee wriggle. Do the same with the hips. Wriggle the toes, wriggle the fingers, and then allow everything to settle as you come onto your mat. Notice how your back feels as it touches your mat. Maybe the arms are also touching your mat, but the carpet or the floor as well. Notice these sensations with the different fabrics. Close your eyes so that you can relax through the face muscles. And start to inhale to fill those lungs all the way up. And exhale to empty all the way out. Inhaling to fill all the way up. And exhaling to empty all the way out. So just continue here with your breath. Nice deep inhales and long exhales. So in this morning's class, we're going to be moving through things a lot slower. Taking our time to really get into those deeper connective tissue areas of the joints themselves. And today we're going to be working on shoulders, a little bit of the back and the hips. Go for 5 more nice big breaths here in your Shavasana. And then start to bring a little bit more of a wriggle into those fingers and toes. your awareness back to your extremities. Then on your next inhale, you're going to take the arms all the way up and overhead, interlacing the hands and giving yourselves a nice long morning stretch all the way through your body. And then drawing the knees towards the chest, go for a nice big squeeze, hands around the shins. And then taking the hands to the right shin, we're going to let the left leg come all the way down to the floor, setting up for our wind relieving pose. So take a nice big inhale as you lengthen through the left side, and as you exhale, we want to start to squeeze this right knee towards that right shoulder. On every inhale, we're going to find a little bit more length, and on that exhale, we're squeezing in. So starting to compress here into that right hip joint and also the right knee. 3 more. Nice deep breaths here. Then on your inhale, bringing that left knee back to meet the right. Go ahead and give both a nice big squeeze. And then going for the same thing on the other side. Hands come to the left shin, right leg comes all the way down to the floor. Take a big inhale to lengthen through the right side, and exhale as you start to squeeze through the left. So notice if there's a little bit of a difference here on the left and right sides. There certainly is for me. And send the breath into those challenging parts. Nice big inhale. And exhale fully. 3 more nice big breaths. Beautiful work. Bringing that right knee back to meet the left. 1 more nice big squeeze here. And then taking your shoulders back to the floor. Bring your arms out in a nice wide T shape. The shins are going to be parallel to the floor. Taking a big inhale to lengthen up the spine. On your exhale, you're going to drop your knees all the way down and over to the right, coming into a supine twist. So here we want to keep that left shoulder on the floor. The shoulders are nice and flat to your mat. Gaze can be directly up at the ceiling, or if you like a little bit more of an extension here, you can turn the gaze to the opposite direction of the knees. We're going to stay here for 5 really nice long breaths. So feel free to close the eyes. Notice and listen to the sounds around you as you inhale to fill all the way out. And exhale to empty out. And then from here, we're going to inhale the knees back to center as the gaze comes up to the ceiling. And then exhale to drop them all the way over to the opposite side, down to the left. Again, you can look directly upwards, or you can turn your head to the opposite directions of the knees, which is this time over to the right. So again, 5 nice big breaths here as both shoulder blades rest down on the mat. Beautiful work. And then from here, taking the gaze back to the ceiling, we want to roll that right arm and shoulder all the way over to the left. So now you're lying on your left side. Using that right hand to slowly start to push the upper body up. Find your way into a comfortable seated position. So here I'm going to face forward so that you can see what I'm doing, but still continue to use the length of your mat. From here we're going to come into a couple of seated twists. So begin by grounding down through your sitting bones and then lifting and lengthening all the way up through the spine and out through the crown of the head. So we want to try and imagine here that somebody's got a string attached to our spine and our head and is pulling all the way up. From here, with this nice inhaled length, we're going to exhale and twist all the way to the right. Taking the left hand, flipping it around and placing it on the outside of that right knee. Taking the right hand to directly behind the spine, just for a little bit of an anchor. So here we want to keep inhaling to lengthen and lift. And on those exhales, that's where we're twisting from the belly and the thoracic part of the spine. So you can look directly to your right here if you want to keep your neck nice and neutral. If you're feeling okay in the neck, you can just turn that gaze over to that right shoulder. So let's go for 3 more nice juicy breaths here. Beautiful work. We're going to take another nice long inhale. And as we exhale, we're going to slowly unravel back to center. So going for the same thing on the other side, just inhale to lift up through the spine, out through the crown. And on your exhale, this time we're twisting to the left. The back of that right hand is going to lock into that left knee. Left hand coming behind the spine for that anchor. So again, another big in-breath as you lift up. And exhale, twisting to the left. There's a little bit of this idea of cinching in through the muscles in and around the waist, and so we kind of want to imagine that we are wearing a corset here in a twisted C, and it's that lifting up and squeezing through the middle part of the core as you exhale and turn from the thoracic spine and from the belly. Let's go for 2 more big breaths here. Another nice big inhale to lift and exhale to unravel. Beautiful work. So from here, we're going to take the right hand down to the right side of the mat or down to the floor and inhale the left arm away out. As you exhale, you're going to spider walk that hand out a little bit further on the mat and bend through the left top side of the body. So here we want to try and stay central, stay neutral through the midline of the body. We're actually just moving laterally. So what we do want to avoid is kind of curling too far forward, but also winging out and coming too far back. So staying nice and central. Both sitting bones are going to stay glued down to your mat. Let's go for another 3 nice big breaths here, and you can continue to just look directly forward, or if it's okay on your neck this morning, you can turn the gaze to that top elbow. Then on your next inhale, lifting all the way back up and taking the left hand down to the left side. Right arm comes all the way up. We're going to lengthen on the inhale and then start to spider walk that left hand on the exhale. So again, notice the difference between the right and left sides of your body this morning. There will always be a difference. I would love to say we're perfectly symmetrical, but we're really not. If we were as well, it wouldn't be very interesting. Kind of boring. It's nice to play with these little quirks we have in the body. So we're going to stay here for another 3 nice long breaths as well. And again, if you want to raise that gaze, take it up to that right elbow. Otherwise, just keep looking forward. And then on your next inhale, coming all the way up, releasing the hands alongside the body, and just go ahead and give the shoulders a nice big wriggle. From here, we're going to set up for our child's pose. So all you're doing is taking the hands down to the floor, rolling forward on the knees, and flicking those toes out behind you. So knees are nice and wide, big toes are touching. Go ahead and wriggle the hips down on towards the heels. Now a couple of options here for your child's pose. If you'd like to use a block underneath your forehead or 2 blocks underneath your belly, go for it. If you've got a sleeping bag or a bolster, it can be really beautiful to kind of cuddle or hold onto your bolster or sleeping bag as well. Otherwise, if you'd just like to come down into your traditional child's pose, go for it. We are melting the heart towards the floor, forehead is rested on the mat or on your blocks, and the elbows and the forearms are completely relaxed as well. So give yourselves a couple of seconds to just adjust to this new movement that we've done in that little wee transition. Come back into your breath. Fill in the lungs all the way up. And then emptying them all the way out. I'm going to stay here for 5 really juicy breaths. Using the positioning of our lungs and our back here to really get that oxygen all the way in. And that carbon dioxide all the way out. From here in our child's pose, we're going to throw the shoulders in. So we're going to keep the legs exactly as they are. Coming up onto the fingertips of the right hand, so you can lift that shoulder and elbow. We're just going to lift the head gently and take that left arm and shoulder all the way down and under. So that the left shoulder is to the floor, the left ear is to the floor. If you need a little bit of extra height here, or that shoulder's not touching the ground, please feel free to place your block or even a cushion underneath the shoulder and the head. Otherwise, if you're all the way down, that right hand is going to stay active and that right elbow and forearm are going to stay off the floor. So your gaze is to the right here. If your hips lift up a little bit, that's perfectly okay. We're really focusing on getting into the rhomboids here and a little bit into the lats, but again also twisting through the belly and through the thoracic part of the spine. Because it's so juicy here in this twist, we are going to stay for 5 nice, beautiful, big breaths. Just in your own time. Inhale to fill all the way out. And exhale to empty all the way out. And again, using the strength of that right hand, you're just going to slowly slide that left arm out. Take the left hand to the top of the mat, and we're going to switch sides. So this time threading that right arm and shoulder all the way underneath the left. Right shoulder to the floor, right ear to the floor. And again, keeping that activation of that top left arm. Because it feels so good, let's go for those 5 breaths here on the right side. And then from here, gently unwinding, lifting back out, take both hands to the top of the mat and allow the upper body just to fold back down into your regular child's pose for another 2 nice big breaths. Then from here, slide those hands back underneath the shoulders and lift yourselves all the way up. Coming into a really juicy toe stretch. So we're going to keep the knees exactly the same. From here, we're going to curl those toes under at the back and slowly start to walk the hands back towards the knees. Now, if you have teeny tiny little toes like I do, you will need to physically flick them underneath. And we've got a couple of options here. So if this is already feeling really intense and quite challenging, please keep your fingertips to the floor and use your hands for a little bit of support. If you're feeling okay here, feel free to take the hands up to the thighs. If the hands are up on the thighs, relax the shoulders. Set the gaze forward, so either to the wall in front of you or down on the floor, because we're going to hold this for 5 nice long breaths. So, excuse me, our toe stretch is always quite challenging because we often forget about the feet. They are incredibly important and very powerful. They are perfectly designed for strength and balance, and we are held up on our feet all day, every day in our lives. So you're almost there. There's another 3 nice big breaths. Just keep sending the breath and send the love down into your feet. Often in the winter especially, they can get a little bit stiffer, a little bit tighter, especially if the feet are a little bit cold. Nearly there. And taking the hands back down to the floor if they've been on your thighs. Just walk them out a little bit, enough that you can undo your toes and take them flat to the floor. Bring the knees to the center of your mat and sink the hips all the way back down onto your heels. So your toes are now doing that opposite movement, and we're going to go in and do a little bit more of a release by stretching through the top parts of the feet. So taking your hands behind your hips, fingertips pointing forward, we're just going to really gently start to stretch through the top parts of the feet and through the top parts of the toes. So on your next inhale, all you're going to do is raise that right knee about 2 inches off the floor. Ever so slightly. You're going to start to feel a really juicy stretch happening up through the top of the right ankle and the right foot. Then taking that right knee back down, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the left side. So inhaling just to gently lift that left knee up about 2 inches above the floor. Gently taking the left knee down. I'm going to repeat on the right side. So inhaling to lift that right knee. Exhaling to take it down. And then inhaling to lift the left knee. And taking it down. So on this next part, it's our last round, we're going to inhale and lift both knees. So gently start to bend through the elbows so that you can lift both knees 2 inches off the floor and really get the rest of that stretch. Now wrapping around the front part of the foot and up its length as well. Beautiful work. Knees come back down to the floor. You're going to walk your hands all the way forward, coming into your tabletop. So here in your tabletop, wrists, elbows, shoulders are in a nice long line. Knees are underneath the hips. And just before we come into our rounds of cat and cow, go ahead and rotate the ankles, going clockwise and counterclockwise. Flap the feet, wriggle the toes. Just completely release those stretches we've been doing in the ankles and the feet. Nice work. And when they're feeling pretty good, just let the feet rest back down on your mat. And we're coming into our cat and cow. So on your inhale, roll the shoulders, drop the belly, send the gaze up. And as you exhale, start to push through the upper back and into those shoulder blades. Inhaling, roll the shoulders, drop the belly, look up. And exhale as you arch. Nice work. Continue these motions with your breath. Just starting to really wake up and get into the spine. We want to remember that in these two for motions, these cats and these cows, that motion is lotion. So here when we're moving, we're kind of lubricating the spine, the whole spinal column, in and out of those vertebrae, moving that fluid in and around, plumping it up, ready for a little bit more movement. With that in mind, go for one more cat and cow. And then come back to your neutral tabletop. And from here, we're going to take puppy pose. So I want you to take both elbows down to the floor, a little bit further out in front of you. So this time your elbows are not directly underneath the shoulders. The knees are going to stay where they are with the hips directly over top of them. And the hands can be flat to the floor, or if you'd like to, you can clasp the hands together. And then taking a nice big inhale, all you're going to do is exhale and start to melt the heart towards the floor. So it might feel natural for you to put your chin down on the floor, but it might feel a little bit more comfortable for you to put your forehead on the floor. So this is our puppy pose. And this is starting to get a little bit more into the upper back and again into the shoulders. It's also a really gorgeous opening all the way through the heart space and the chest. So just relax the hands and rest the forehead. We're going to stay here for a few more moments. Just really allowing for that complete opening through the heart. Beautiful work. And then from here, take a nice big inhale just as you lift the head and roll the shoulders forward. So they're just coming over those elbows just for a second. And then hand by hand, under each shoulder, we're going to come into our downward facing dog. So curling the toes under, leading with the hips, downward facing dog. So this is about as high as we're going to get in our practice this morning, is our downward dog. The rest of our practice is going to be closer to the floor and the mat. So go ahead and walk your legs out here in a downward dog. Your down dog is a really gorgeous pose to use as a resting pose. Even though it's very active and there are things going on,
it is one that we want to try and feel at ease in here. It's one we want to utilize and use as that home base. So go ahead and swish the hips from side to side. Roll the shoulders down and away from the ears. And settle yourselves in for 3 really nice, deep, juicy breaths here in your down dog. And then looking towards the hands at the top of your mat, you're just going to slowly start to walk those feet up behind the hands and come into your ragdoll. So dropping the shoulders, dropping the head and the neck, really making sure the upper body is relaxed. If the hamstrings are exceptionally tight, please micro bend the knees a little bit. The idea here is to have your belly and the chest closer to the thighs rather than having the straight legs and only being able to fold a little bit. It's just putting a little bit too much strain on the back. So bend the knees, rest the belly, drop the shoulders, the head and the neck. From here and over time, that's when you would start to lift the sitting bones closer towards the ceiling without losing the relaxation of the upper body. Go ahead and grab for your opposite elbows. And you can either stay stationary here. I prefer a little bit of a rock and roll from side to side. It just helps me to really relax and soften through my shoulders and the upper back, but it also relaxes my head and the neck. If you're still not quite feeling that here in your forward fold, go ahead and nod the head out yes, shake the head out no, and then let it fall. 3 more nice big breaths here. Then releasing the hands down to the floor. We're going to take one of our blocks or our books and place it down in front of that left foot. Taking the left hand to the left block, we're going to bend the left knee as much as you need to straighten out that right leg. And then the right arm's going to inhale and come all the way up. So we're coming into a little bit of a forward fold twist here, or even a halfway lift twist. We want to imagine that we're sticking this right shoulder and right arm on top of the left, and we're going for a juicy wee stretch happening in this right hip. Now, if it's okay on your neck, you can raise your gaze. Otherwise, just keep looking directly to the right. Let's go for 3 more breaths. And then that right hand is going to come all the way down, and we're just going to switch into the other side. So taking the block in front of that right foot, bend the right knee, straighten out the left, inhale the left arm all the way up. And again, you can look directly to your left or raise that gaze. 3 nice big breaths here. And then gently coming back down. From here, just take your block to the side and take your feet to the widest edges of your mat. Keep your hands on your fingertips out here in front of you. And we're going to do a couple of little malasana pulses. So taking a nice big inhale, lift and lengthen forward, and as you exhale, we're going to bend the knees and drop the hips. And then inhale to come back up, looking forward, almost straightening those legs. Exhale, pulsing back down. Inhale to lift up, flat back, almost that forward fold with straight legs. Exhale to drop. Inhale to lift. We're going to go for 3 more of these, just with your breath. Exhale to gently lower. Inhale to lift. 2 more. One more. All the way up. And then on this last motion, we're going to come and sink those hips all the way down, coming into our full Malasana. If every time you've been coming down, your heels have been up and off the floor, please use your book or block and place the block underneath your sitting bones to give yourselves a little bit of extra height. If you have a rug or a towel or pillows, the other option is to place them underneath your heels to give you a little bit of extra support. Otherwise, if you're in your Malasana with the heels down, the upper arms or those triceps are going to snuggle their way to the inside of those knee creases, hands coming into prayer at the forehead center almost. Then as you inhale to lengthen and lift up, those hands are going to drop down towards the sternum. So the thumbs are almost in line with the very middle of your chest. Now, a Malasana is again another one of those positions similar to our half pigeon sometimes that it can be, but also just to our toe squat. It can be very challenging for a lot of people, and for others this position can actually be really quite comfortable. Everyone is very different. It works directly into our hips, our groin, and into those hip flexors and the iliopsoas muscle. So if we're quite tight in those areas, it can be very challenging and quite intense. So please remember to breathe. We're going to stay here for another 5 nice juicy breaths. Beautiful work, everyone, and well done. Taking the hands down to the floor, we're just going to lift those hips all the way back up and walk back slowly into your downward facing dog. Go ahead and walk those legs out. And then from here, we're going to start to come a little bit more into the hips and into the legs. So on your next inhale, raise the right leg all the way up. Look towards the hands and step the right foot forward, bringing that left knee all the way down to the floor. From here, we're going to do some nice low lunge pulses. So inhale, both hands onto that right thigh. As you'll notice, you might be sinking already quite low into your lunge position, and that's perfectly okay. What we do want to remember though is that the right knee is directly over that right ankle. Please try not to come too far forward. If your knee is way well and truly over that ankle, you're putting a lot of stress onto that knee and overextending through the ankle. So if you've got long legs, you might just need to move the back knee back a little bit further. From here, relax the shoulders. The hands are just resting on the thigh. If this feels a little bit uncomfortable, go for hands on hips. From here, on your inhale, start to lift up through hips and pelvis and almost straighten that front leg. Then as you exhale, sink back down. Inhaling to lift up and exhaling to sink. These are our nice low lunge pulses. Go with your breath. So you inhale to rise
and exhale to sink down. Continue with these motions, remembering that motion is lotion. So we're trying to stir up and pump and plump all that synovial fluid that we've got stored and protecting the joints. Helps us to create more and utilize it in the right places. So going for 3 more, inhaling to lift and exhaling to sink. 2. 1 more. Beautiful work. And as you come down on that last one, really allow the hips to sink all the way forward, and then take both hands to the inside of that right foot. So we're sitting up a little bit here for our low lunge or a dragon. If this is a bit much on your hands, or you feel like the ground is a bit too far away, please use a little bit of extra height. So whether that's with your hands on a block, on a book, on your sleeping bag or bolster if you've got one of those at home. I'm going to stay here for a really nice long count of 7 breaths. And from here, keeping that left hand down on the floor or your block, you're going to take the right hand to the right knee. Inhale to lengthen out through the spine and the crown. And on your exhale, you're going to drop over to the right side of that right foot while you wing the right knee out and turn towards the right side of your mat. Into our dragon twist. 3 nice big breaths here. Using that right hand, you're going to guide that right knee back in. Taking a hand either side of that right foot, start to slowly walk those hands back towards the hips. So you straighten through the front leg and then lift those toes up and off the floor, bending and folding from the hips to fold forward. So coming into our half pyramid here. This is really just so that we can start to stretch and move into the back part of this right leg, up and into those hamstrings especially, but also a little bit into that gastrocnemius or that calf muscle, the belly of the calf muscle on that right leg. 2 more breaths. Nice work. Walking those hands back towards that right foot. Hand either side. Curl the back toes under. Step back. Downward facing dog. And you might feel a little bit like the right leg is a tiny bit longer than the left here. It's perfectly okay. We're going to even that out by going into the left side now. So inhale the left leg all the way up. Look towards the hands. Step the left foot forward. This time, right knee's coming down to the floor. So again, give yourselves a couple of seconds to find the positioning with that left knee over top of that left ankle, and it might be wiggling that back knee back. When you're ready, inhaling both hands to on top of that left thigh. So notice where you're sitting with this lower drop here in your hips and pelvis, and then these next couple of low lunge pulses, we're going to see if we can extend on that a little bit further. So as you inhale, lift up through hips and pelvis, almost to that straight front leg. Exhale to sink on down. Inhale to lift. Exhale to sink. Continue with your breath, as slow or as fast as you like. Trying to imagine as you move that idea of lotion is motion, motion is lotion. Movement creates healthy synovial fluid or joint fluid. That's what nourishes and protects. It works a little bit like a shock absorber in all of our joints throughout the body. Going for 3 more. 3, 2. Inhaling to come up and exhaling into 1 and really sinking down, noticing if that feels a little bit different from that first sink. Then both hands come down to the inside of this left foot, and again you might like to place a block or a book underneath the hands. You might want to be on your bolster. We're setting up for our dragon on the left side, and we're going to hold this side for 7 nice big breaths as well. So even though our dragon is a yin pose, there is certainly a little bit of fire that starts to happen. And that's really just because within the yin there is a little bit of yang. When we do a more dynamic practice in our yang poses, there's that little bit of yin. Always there to balance each other out. But I also wonder if this pose is called dragon because it makes you want to breathe fire. Exceptional pose for runners or even cyclists. We're really trying to lengthen out the big muscle groups of the thighs. So keeping the right hand down on the block or the floor, you're going to take the left hand to that left thigh or knee. Take a nice big inhale to lengthen through the spine and the crown. And as you exhale, you're winging that left knee open, coming up onto the edge of the left foot and twisting the belly to look towards the left. 3 nice big breaths here. And using that left hand, you're going to draw that left knee back to center. Hands either side of this left foot, and then slowly start to draw the hips back as you walk the hands back, lifting the front toes and bowing the upper body forward, coming into your half pigeon. So this time really starting to stretch from the back of the left leg, again into that calf muscle and the hamstrings. And then from here we're going to walk those hands forward, flattening the left foot, curling the right toes under and stepping back. Downward facing dog. Now hopefully now your left and right legs feel the same length. And from here we're going to come into our half pigeon. So we'll start with the right side. The right knee is going to sweep its way down behind the right wrist, bringing the right shin across the mat. And the left knee and left leg come out behind. So this is our traditional positioning of our half pigeon. If you have had knee injuries, please use this modification where we're coming onto your backs. Left knee is going to stay bent and flat to the floor with the left foot, and we're just creating this nice figure of 4 shape with the right knee. So if you've ever had any injuries in that knee or either knee, please do your half pigeon on your back. You can keep that foot always on the floor, you can lift it, you can interlace the hands. It's exactly the same stretch, It's just meaning we are avoiding more injury. Otherwise, if you're here in your half pigeon, make sure your hips are squaring forward. What can often happen is that we collapse down to the right. Sometimes I can even go to the left personally. So if you feel like you're going to move to either side and you've got blocks or props around you, feel free to prop yourself up. So you can place a block under the right hip. You could even place one under the left thigh if you needed to. So here, if you've got yourself propped up and you're feeling nice and squared forward, take a nice big inhale to lengthen up through the spine and notice that little bit of a back bend happening in the lumbar area. And then when you're ready, exhale to come all the way forward. Here is where your cushions and your pillows or your bolsters are going to become really handy and quite lovely. Or, like me, your trusty sleeping bag. So, I love to have this underneath my belly and my chest. So wherever you are, please make sure that your upper body is really nice and supported and really relaxed. We are going to be holding our half pigeon on both sides, whether you're on your back or coming forward here, and it's going to be our longest hold this morning. So make sure the upper body is nice and rested, nice and relaxed. Close the eyes, relax the face, and breathe. I'm going to stay here on our right side for another 10 nice, long, juicy breaths, which is about another 60 seconds. And then very slowly lifting the head
Take both hands underneath each shoulder. Maybe just wriggle your bolster or your sleeping bag to the side. You're going to curl the back toes under and gently step back into your downward facing dog. Now if you've been doing your half pigeon on your back, just give that right leg a little bit of a shake out, a little bit of release, and then switch the legs over for your figure of four on the other side. I'm going to come straight on into the left side here. So looking towards that left wrist this time, I'm going to take that left knee down behind the left wrist. The shin is across the mat, and then that right knee is going to come all the way back down to the floor, nice and straight out behind. Take a couple of seconds, find your props, check out where you'd like them. If it's underneath that left hip, go for it. If it's underneath the right thigh, plant it in. We want to make sure those hips are nice and squared forward. Then from here, inhale to lengthen up, and you'll notice that little back bend starting to happen in that lumbar area. And then exhale as you start to come forward. Again, if you want your bolsters or blocks underneath the upper body, please go for it. We really want to be nice and relaxed through our upper body here in our half pigeon. And it's only fair that we spend the same amount of time on the left side as we did on the right side, really so that we don't walk out feeling wonky. Gonna wriggle my block around the right way. Perfect. So settle yourselves in, finding that nice restful position with your chest, the back and the shoulders. Close the eyes to relax through the face. And breathe. So we're going to stay on this side for another 10 nice big breaths, or about another 60 seconds. And then very gently bring your hand underneath each shoulder. If you're on your back, stay exactly where you are and just grab for your strap. If you're here in your half pigeon, we're going to come out of this side a little bit differently. So move your bolsters out from underneath you. And also move your blocks out from underneath you. We're going to curl the back toes under to lift the back leg, and this time just collapse all the way down onto that left hip so that you can bring each leg out in front of you. So you can go ahead here and just shake out the legs a little bit. Just move your props out of the way. We are going to come into another nice juicy hamstring stretch with our straps. So, leading yourselves all the way down onto your back with your hands, unravel your strap, and all we're going to do is take the strap to the ball of the right foot. And so here you want to have enough of a good grip that your elbows and your upper arms can rest down on the floor. The left knee can stay bent if you prefer with the left foot to the floor, otherwise you can stretch it all the way down to the mat if you would like to. The option is there for you. So here on your inhale, we're going to start to slowly lift those toes towards the face. As you do so, notice what happens when you drop the big toe towards, you raise the big toe towards the ceiling, or you drop the big toe towards the floor. So notice what happens when you flex your foot side to side. Notice the sensations through the back of the leg as you do that. And you may get a little bit shaky in that right leg. It depends on what you've been doing earlier in your week and your weekend. You're going to stay here for 5 nice big breaths. On every one of those inhales, see if you can draw the toes a little bit closer towards the face. If you are shaky like I am on my right leg today, you're in the right spot. And after those 5 breaths, you're going to join the 2 straps together. You're going to take the right hand and take a nice high grip here with that right hand. Again, the left knee can stay bent if you like, or it can be down to the floor. And all you're going to do is start to draw that right foot all the way down towards the right side of your mat. Keep the toes towards the head as you do so. And you want to come low enough that you can again support yourself on your right elbow and your right upper arm. Let's go for 3 nice big breaths here. Shoulders are both down to the floor. And then on your next inhale, you're gently going to come all the way back up. And you're going to switch the hands over. So this time the left hand is going to grip quite high up on your strap. Take the right arm all the way down to the floor, palm facing down. Take a big inhale, and as you exhale, you're going to cross that right leg all the way over the left, coming into a little bit of a supine twist here with your strap. So we want to keep those toes towards the face or towards the head, but again, you're using this nice little shelf type perch. It's almost like a little jack to hold that leg up while you're holding the strap. 3 nice big breaths here. If this is quite challenging or stingy behind the back of that right knee, please micro bend the knee. And then inhaling the right leg all the way back up. And we're going to switch the legs over. So, taking the left foot, all of the toes into the strap, let the right leg come all the way down. So begin by just gripping at the strap in your hands, both hands, and allowing the elbows and the upper arms to come down to the floor. This is essentially the shape with the arms that you want to have each time you switch to the right and left sides. So on your 5 count here, as you start to draw those toes towards the crown of the head, again, have a little play with raising the ball of that big toe up and dropping it back down. Notice what happens and where you feel it.
through the back of that left leg as you do those little movements. Then keep inhaling to draw the toes towards the face. And again, you might get a little bit shaky. Shaky is all good. And then from here, we're going to join the straps together. Take the left hand quite high up that strap, and on your nice big inhale, lengthen up through that leg, take it closer towards the face, and as you exhale, allow that left foot to come down towards the left side of your mat. Again, you're using that left elbow and upper arm for a little bit of extra support. Keep guiding those left toes towards the face, and shoulders are both on the floor. 3 nice big breaths. And inhaling to lift that left leg all the way back up. Hands come to switching, so the right hand now takes hold of the strap. Left arm comes all the way out alongside your body. Take a nice big inhale again, keep those toes towards the face, and we're going to exhale that left foot down towards the right, coming into almost that supine twist position. 3 breaths here. And then inhaling to come all the way back up. And you're going to release that left foot and just pop your strap to the side. We're going to come into our supported butterfly here, or our Supta Baddha Konasana. So it can actually be really nice to do this with blocks, which is where it becomes supported. You can, if you'd like to as well, just use cushions. So grabbing a cushion in each hand or a block in each hand, you're going to bring the feet to the middle of your mat and then just wing those knees all the way open. So where we want to support with our cushions or our blocks is actually just to the outside of those thighs. Really so that we're not overdoing it through the groin area and through those muscles right in between the quads and the hamstrings. So just prop yourself to where it's comfortable, and hands can rest on your thighs here, or you can rest them on your belly, or if you would like to, they can become alongside of your body, palms facing up. And here as you rest into your Supta Baddha Konasana, or your supported butterfly, let your shoulders wriggle into the mat, let the hips and the lumbar part of your back kind of press down and solidify with the ground. Close the eyes to relax through the face. We're going to be using our Supta Baddha Konasana today in place of our Shavasana. We do really want to be quite comfy here. Just with a micro stretch happening through the inner part of the thighs. So here, start to let go of any deeper breathing that you've been doing in your practice. Just let your lungs take over. So that you've got no conscious thought going to the breath. Let your mind be easy. Let your body relax.
heart space rest. And give yourselves the time and the space just to really relax here on your mat. We're transitioning again on Monday into another level here in our COVID-19 status. A little bit more change. But for now, just give yourself time to really rest, relax, recoup and rejuvenate. And really nice and slowly, just start to wiggle your fingers a little bit here. And even roll the head from side to side, just to ease through the neck. And if you would prefer to stay in your Supta Baddha Konasana or even just a Shavasana for a bit longer, please feel free to do so. It's the beauty of a home practice. We can linger a little bit. Otherwise, just remove the blocks out from underneath you. Bring the knees to the ceiling and raise the arms all the way up and overhead, giving yourselves a nice big stretch. And then just roll all the way to the left or right sides of your mat. And resting the head on one of your raised arms. And just stay here for a moment. And using your top hand to push down and lift yourselves all the way up into a comfortable seated position. And the hands can come onto the thighs or the knees or even into prayer at the heart center. Ground down through those sitting bones. Lift all the way up through the spine and out through the crown of the head. Just give yourself a few more seconds here. Maybe just set an intention for the rest of your day.
Or maybe even to send out lots of love to your friends and family, your neighbours, your community, maybe even to all those Anzacs that we're celebrating this weekend. Thank you all very much for joining me this morning. Namaste. Awesome work, everybody. We held our pigeon on both sides for 3 minutes, so well done. Traditionally that pose is 3 to 5 minutes on each side, so if you're stuck with it for the 3 minutes, you're doing very well and well on your way to being a little bit more open in your hips. Hopefully if you've been doing any cycling, any Tabatas or some vigorous home practices, you now feel a little bit more stretchy and a bit more open. Also, if you've all of a sudden become a runner while we've been in lockdown, a yin practice like this can really help to re-lengthen and stretch out any muscles that are quite short. So make sure you drink lots of water for the rest of your day and have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.